Turn that junk off. Nobody is calling Ghost Grandpa. That is what the young tech said as the old man, face worn, eyes hollow, tuned the static-ridden military radio for the 11,278th time. He did not respond, just logged the silence. Same time, same channel for 30 years until today. The room crackled. A voice, weak, broken, cut through Echo 7. Standing by, the old man dropped his pen and whispered through shaking lips. You made it out. If you believe loyalty survives, even static, comment. Respect below. The mountain fog hung heavy outside the ranger station window as Walter Jennings completed his night shift log. At 76, his handwriting remained precisely the same block of letters he had used during 2 tours in Vietnam and 1 unofficial mission into Cambodia. Every morning at 0525, Walter would check his watch. At exactly 0530, he would power up the old PRC-77 field radio he had salvaged and restored decades ago. The other rangers thought it was just an old man's hobby, a relic collector's pride. They did not know it was his lifeline to the past. From the outside, Walter appeared ordinary, a quiet retired Army radio operator who had found peace working night shifts at this remote mountain outpost. His cabin, a quarter-mile behind the station, housed little more than necessities, books on radio technology, and a wall of notebooks, 37 in total, each containing 365 entries. Morning, Walter, said Jessica, the day shift supervisor, as she entered the station. Any excitement overnight? Quiet, he replied, his voice a low rumble from years of disuse. Just how we like it. Jessica nodded, not expecting more. Walter was not known for conversation. As she busied herself with the morning reports, Walter moved to the small side room where his radio setup waited. Unlike the station's modern equipment, Walter's radio was military-grade, Vietnam-era, maintained with parts he had ordered from specialty catalogs and surplus stores. He flipped the switches with practiced precision. Static filled the room. Seriously, Walter. Ryan, the young tech who had just arrived, leaned against the doorframe. That dinosaur again. Nobody is using those frequencies anymore. Walter did not look up. His fingers adjusted the dial to the exact frequency, 29.970 megahertz. The same frequency he last transmitted on in 1975 in the jungles of Cambodia when everything went to hell. Turn that junk off, Ryan continued. Nobody is calling Ghost Grandpa. Walter remained focused, unresponsive to the barb. He had heard variations of it for years from rangers, visitors, even his own son before they had stopped speaking. The static continued, unbroken by any human voice. Walter picked up his current logbook, a simple composition notebook identical to the 36 completed ones in his cabin. On today's date, he wrote the time, weather conditions, and signal strength. Then in the final column, the same words he had written 277 times before. Echo 7 status, no contact. He closed the book, powered down the radio, and prepared to walk back to his cabin. I do not get it, Ryan said to Jessica as Walter passed them. He does this every single day. What is he even listening for? Walter paused at the door, looking back at them with eyes that had seen too much. Radios do not forget, he said quietly. People do. Outside, rain began to fall, but Walter did not quicken his pace. Rain, snow, or peace, the rhythm remained unchanged. Same ritual, same waiting. In his cabin, he placed today's logbook beside yesterday's and looked at the wall of identical notebooks. 30 years of silence documented with military precision. He did not expect anyone to understand. Some commitments transcended explanation. Some promises could not be broken even by time. Cambodia, 1975. The memory played in Walter's mind with the clarity of yesterday as he made his morning coffee. Their unit, 6 men deep reconnaissance, had been ambushed 20 meters inside territory that officially American forces never entered. Pinned down by heavy fire, Walter had manned the radio while their team leader Ray Hawk Dandridge organized their defense. Echo 5 to base. We are compromised. Heavy contact. Walter had kept his voice level despite the chaos. Request immediate extraction. Coordinates follow. The reply had been broken, fragmented by electronic interference. Echo 5. Signal weak. Unable to. Then Hawk was hit, a clean shot through his right shoulder. Walter had dragged him behind cover, applied pressure, prepared to carry him if necessary. Go, Hawk had ordered, his voice already weakening from blood loss. I will create a diversion. Get our men out. Negative, Walter replied. We move together. But the enemy had flanked them. More shots, more screams. Walter had found himself separated from Hawk, coordinating the retreat of their 4 remaining men. The last he had seen of Hawk, his friend, was surrounded, firing his sidearm with his left hand, buying them time. I will come back, Walter had promised over the radio. Echo 5 will monitor this channel daily. I will come back. The helicopter had extracted them 5 miles south. Search parties were denied. Too dangerous, command said. Ray Hawk Dandridge was listed as missing in action, later presumed killed in action, but no body was ever recovered. Walter had refused to accept it. He had monitored that channel every chance he got during his remaining service. After discharge, he had sought a position with radio access. The ranger station, with its elevated position and long-range capability, had been perfect. No one ever connected his daily ritual to his service record. They just thought he was eccentric, an old man who liked outdated technology. This morning's routine began like any other. Walter brewed coffee, put on his worn olive drab jacket despite the summer heat, and walked to the station for his daily transmission. Jessica nodded as he entered. Ryan rolled his eyes, but said nothing. Walter proceeded to his radio room, closed the door, and powered up the PRC-77. Static filled the small space. He adjusted the dials, fine-tuning to eliminate interference. Echo 5 standing by for Echo 7. He transmitted the same words he had spoken 11,277 times before. Walter standing by for Hawk. He released the transmit button. Static answered him, as always. Until it did not. Through the white noise, broken and faint, but unmistakably human, came 3 words. Echo 7. Standing by. Walter dropped his pen. The room seemed to tilt around him. This is Echo 5, he whispered, gripping the microphone with trembling fingers. Identify. The static swallowed time. Then, Ray alive. Lau's hiding. The transmission cut abruptly. Static returned. Walter sat frozen, unable to process what he just heard. After 30 years, the voice he had been waiting for had answered. He grabbed his log book, writing with unsteady hands. Echo 7 status. Contact established. When military officials dismissed his report, a young specialist named Aaron, Ryan's brother, arrived to help. Using advanced equipment, he confirmed this was not a hoax, sir. The signal originated from the Laos-Vietnam border region, and it used encryption patterns consistent with the Special Forces communications circa 1968 to 1975. He placed a call to his commanding officer. Sir, Aaron said into his phone, his eyes fixed on Walter. I think we need to notify the Pentagon. We may have a stranded soldier, and this gentleman's logbooks might be the most comprehensive passive monitoring record in existence. If you believe no man should be left unheard. Comment. Respect below. The following 72 hours transformed the sleepy mountain ranger station into an impromptu military operations center. Pentagon officials arrived by helicopter, bringing specialists who treated Walter's 37 logbooks with reverence. Each entry, 11,278 days of faithful monitoring, was digitized and analyzed for patterns that helped triangulate the transmission's origin. These readings from 1998 to 2003 are particularly valuable, explained Colonel Harriman, the operations commander. You documented signal anomalies that match encoded transmissions our intelligence detected but could never source. Walter nodded. I always noted everything. Radio discipline. The station's equipment was augmented with military-grade technology. Walter's old PRC-77 was integrated into the system. The brass understood it might be the only receiver Ray Hawk Dandridge trusted. At precisely 0530 on the 3rd morning, Walter transmitted again. Echo 5 to Echo 7. Walter to Hawk. We are coming for you, old friend. The response came faster this time. Confirm. Ridge. 3 clicks north of Ban, Hawaii. Special Forces operators had already deployed to the Laos border region, moving with delicacy in a country where American military presence remained politically sensitive. The coordinates led them to a remote mountainous area where the borders of Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar converged. Walter remained at the radio, sleeping in brief shifts, refusing to leave his post. Ryan, who had once mocked him, now brought him meals and fresh coffee without being asked. At 0415 on the fourth day, the secure line rang. "We have him," Colonel Harmon announced, his professional composure cracking. Ray Hawk Dandridge confirmed alive, malnourished, weakened, but alive. Walter sank into his chair, a lifetime of vigilance collapsing into a single moment of vindication. How? Was all he could ask. He was captured during the final chaos of the war. Escaped during a transfer in 1975, been living among hill tribes, moving between villages, hiding in caves when patrols came through. He has been transmitting on that frequency for years, but only when he felt safe enough. "And no one heard him," Walter said quietly. "No one but you," the colonel confirmed. When asked why he kept trying the same frequency all these years, he said, "Because I knew Walter would still be listening." The story broke internationally after Ray had been stabilized at a military hospital in Thailand. Headlines ranged from sensational, "Ghost soldier returns after 30 years in jungle," to respectful, "Veteran hears long-lost comrade after 3 decades of silence." The Army arranged a quiet ceremony at Arlington. No press was permitted. Only military personnel, officials, and Walt. Ray Dandridge, now 78, arrived in a wheelchair. His once powerful frame reduced to sinew and bone. When he saw Walt, he attempted to stand. Walt shook his head and instead knelt beside the wheelchair, taking his friend's weathered hand. "You waited," Ray said, his voice raspy from decades of minimal use. "You survived," Walt replied. The Army offered Walt a Distinguished Service Medal. He declined. "I already got what I came for," he told the general. The story refused to die. Veterans groups shared it with a hashtag that trended for weeks. Never stopped listening. Military communication schools incorporated what became known as the Jennings Protocol into their training. The principle that sometimes, against all probability, silence contains vital messages. A bill was proposed in Congress mandating long-term monitoring of frequencies associated with unresolved prisoner missing in action cases. Politicians from both parties supported it unanimously, naming it the Jennings Protocol. In veteran communities, the impact was profound. Men and women who had served together decades earlier reconnected, refusing to let silence or time separate them any longer. "He waited," they told each other. And he was right. "Radios are not old" became a saying. We just stopped listening. Walt and Ray do not give speeches. They do not write books or appear on talk shows despite lucrative offers. They decline documentary filmmakers and journalists who still, months later, seek the emotional details of their extraordinary reunion. Instead, they live quietly in the same small town near the mountain where Walt maintained his vigil. Ray moved into a modest house the veterans community helped purchase just 3 blocks from Walt's cabin. Every Thursday morning, they meet at Mabel's Diner. 2 old soldiers at a corner booth, Walt with black coffee, Ray with tea and honey for his damaged throat. Sometimes they talk, reminiscing about comrades long gone. More often they sit in comfortable silence, the kind only possible between men who understand that some experiences transcend words. "Does it bother you," Ray asked once, "that they want to make us into heroes?" Walt shook his head. "They need the story, not us." Ray nodded. "I survived because hill tribes took pity on a wounded foreigner. You listened because..." "Well, why did you listen so long, Walt?" Walt considered the question, one he had been asked countless times since Ray's return. His answer was always the same. "Because I said I would." The military declassified portions of Walt's log books, 37 volumes of daily entries stretching from June 1975 to August 2023. They now reside in the National Veterans Archive in Washington, D.C., protected behind glass, but open for visitors to see. On the first page of the first volume, the archivist added Walt's handwritten note. "If you ever feel you are speaking to no one, someone is still listening." The rangers at the mountain station, where Walt worked, placed a small bronze plaque in the radio room. This room once heard nothing until a man chose not to stop listening. Walt still handles night shifts occasionally, though he is technically well past retirement age. The younger rangers no longer mock his loyalty to outdated gear. Instead, they ask questions, listen carefully to his few but exact instructions on radio use. Ryan, once his loudest critic, has become something of a student, learning the details of signal handling from a man whose radio skills came 5 decades earlier. At Fort Gordon, Georgia, where military communications teams train new recruits, are shown digital versions of Walt's last logbook. The densely filled pages with their detailed notes serve as a clear reminder of their first lesson, which is no longer about encryption or radio systems. It begins with a simple question. What is worth waiting 30 years to hear? The answers vary with each class, but the message remains unchanged. Some duty rises above logic. Some faith outlasts time. Ray's health improves slowly. He may never fully heal from 30 years of hardship, but his eyes shine brighter each month. He starts a small garden, learns to use a computer, calls Walt sometimes just to hear his voice over technology that once separated them by impossible distance. And Walt, he still wakes at 0525 each morning, still checks his tools with steady care. But now when he transmits, someone always replies. Subscribe to our channel if you believe silence should never be mistaken for surrender.